Week 8, day 5, and we finally finished the book of Leviticus. Our readings today are Leviticus chapters 26 through 27, and we jump into Numbers chapters 1 through 2. So there's a couple of things here. The fact that we have gotten through the end of a book of rules, it probably makes sense that at the end we get the warning of what happens when we don't follow those rules. And so God reiterates God's covenant with the people of Israel, the people that he has set apart from all the other peoples of the world. And with it says, this covenant is two ways. I will do these things and I will be your God, but you are meant to be my people, and there are certain expectations of what that means. And if you don't follow through, you're going to find that I will discipline you. That's what a good parent does, sets boundaries and then abides by them. Well, in these disciplines, we find that the more and more that the people wander away from the rules of God, as they wander afar from their relationship with God, God's discipline becomes progressively more severe and ultimately ends up in a final judgment of exile. Now, this is a dire warning, and you would certainly hope that they would take it seriously. And yet we know, and we will continue to see as we read through the scripture, that people continued to wander farther and farther away from God. And ultimately, God would discipline them by exiling them from the land that God had promised in this covenant, send them to Babylon. Now, it'll take over half of millennia till that happens. But God does come around to judgment when it is necessary to discipline his people. When we jump into Numbers, then, we think, we're finally done with the sluggishness of Leviticus. And then we start Numbers and we think, maybe we've gone from the fire to the pan to the fire. The first part of Numbers, and the reason why the book is called Numbers, is it is about census. And so we see a recollection of all the peoples that make up the Israelites at this point. They are still at the base of Mount Sinai. They've been there about a year, and they're about to take off on the journey to the Promised Land. And before they do that, here is the census that records who the people are and how many there are. So again, don't get too caught up on it. Just read through so that you can say that you've done it, and know that the big picture is that God is counting the souls that are part of God's community, and you make up part of God's community as well.